pre-match press conference ahead of Southampton. We'll talk about that too. Just after 2 o'clock. Whenever you're ready, Kirsty.
Okay, well, let's get it out of the way then. Clearly, the issue's been. What punishment do you expect to see? Would you like?
It's a conversation between the FA and the EFL. So whether it's league or FA, it's for them to decide, and for them to decide if they feel it's worthy of a punishment. I think I made my feelings quite clear on it around the game against Leeds, but I don't think my opinion now on what should happen is probably the right thing to do anyway, to start trying to push anything. It's not my case, it's how much the league or the FA decide that they want to stop what happened going forward, or if they don't.
Can you reveal a bit more about what exactly was said between yourself and Bielsa?
Well, the day before the game we had a conversation where he admitted sending one of his staff to come and watch us train. So I think that's pretty clear. I mean, that was the good side of his admission on TV on the game, was that it was factual, and it wasn't like Derby County were trying to make something up. It was what it was. It makes it easier for the whoever has to deal with it to deal with. And I took it as that. It wasn't an apology, it was an admission. And as I say, I think I made myself pretty clear with how I felt about it, and it wasn't because it was done to myself or this club. It was how I feel about football and what I think's right or wrong.
Have you had any other managers contact you, give their thoughts, feelings? No, I haven't. But what I will say is that I've heard a lot said about it. And it's obviously a divisive issue. Amongst fans, it's quite clear. You're a Derby fan, you think it's out of order. If you're a Leeds fan, you think it's fine. And if you're neutral, you probably don't care too much, but you probably think it's fine because it's not your club. Amongst managers, and I haven't canvassed opinion, but I from having years at Chelsea and a year at Manchester City and seeing how protective top managers are over their work, and at those clubs they can build big walls to make sure they protect their work. I know how much they care, and I would expect them to be of the same thinking as myself. And so I just think that's what would be the case with pundits or ex-players who comment and say, well, it all happened 20 years ago, everyone used to watch training. It's not 20 years ago, it's the modern day. There was a lot of work on tactics, and we were working specifically on our tactics before the game. And to say it's not illegal, well, firstly, legal in terms of law has never been the actual benchmark of sport. There are different benchmarks, and the fact is it wasn't peeking over a fence, it was on hands and knees with pliers in hand. So it seems that there was intention, and it stopped before that. But I think that's the story. It's all been painted now, and it's for the authorities to deal with or not. If it's not dealt with, do you fear that it will carry on and other clubs will decide to do the same?
Maybe, if it's not dealt with, yeah.
Would you hire your own spy now?
No, I think it's clear that I wouldn't. I'd be somewhat of a hypocrite if I did. No, listen, I said it after the game. We have staff here. I work hard. I spend hours watching opposition. My staff do, the analysis team do. That's how it works. And then we work hard on ourselves, and we look at the opposition. And that's, I think, how 99% of coaches work, I believe. To say this thing is commonplace in the modern day, I don't believe it at all. There were talks about Chelsea used to do this years ago. I certainly wasn't aware of it, and I don't believe it at all. No matter, it's certainly not in the form that it's happened this time. So for people to try and throw up that it happened in other places and it's all fine, that's just not what it is, as far as I see. So I wouldn't partake in it, and that's the end.
If they go on to win the league, to gain promotion, will it tarnish their success, do you think?
No, listen, they're a good team. They're a big club. They've been out of the Premier League for a long time. I don't think this subject is one that's going to be defining whether the FA, whatever way the FA or League deal with it. I would be wrong to stand here and try and throw that negativity over it. I've made my thoughts clear on it, but more importantly, Leeds are a very good team, and hence why our result and performance was clear that it wasn't to do with the whole story. It was more that they were better than us on the day.
So Leeds are now parked, as far as I'm concerned. We've played them twice. I focus on Derby County.
Do you think you learn anything from it in how you deal with situations like that? I mean, did it rattle the team at all, or yourself?
No, well listen, I wasn't happy with it, but I don't learn anything. I'm not naive to think that things go on in life, not just football. But I also can't walk the perimeter of my training ground whilst coaching a team or preparing them for the next day. So there's nothing we could have done about that. And if I was upset with it, it doesn't mean I changed my preparation with the team. We did everything the same. Fact is, as I say, Leeds went and performed better, and that's the end of it. We were never going to gauge how much this affected the game. You can't gauge things like this. All you can do is see how the players perform. They perform better than us.
I promise I am going to get onto the FA Cup next, but just looking at one other Championship club, it's looking very likely that Martin O'Neill is to become the new Nottingham Forest manager. Your thoughts on seeing him back in club football and going up against him in the Championship?
I think it's great. A character, personality, a man with huge abilities in terms of his coaching. It's been proven in the clubs and that he's worked at domestically and internationally, and he has a history there. Was part of their great teams, and I would be very much looking forward to going up against Martin. I know him pretty well actually, through off the pitch as well. So characters like him and talent like him to be at a club like Nottingham Forest, I think is a good fix.
What kind of character is he, knowing him personally?
Charismatic. I think he's a manager that leads with his personality and charisma and lifts players up. He did it with Leicester. I remember years ago seeing him bring a team and lift them up, as managers who have that certain magic do. Now, I'm sure the detail, I don't know the detail behind the scenes, but I know as a character that he'll have a lot of effect on the players there.
And do you think he'll be still driven, given his years in the game?
Yeah, I think people like Martin O'Neill are driven for all their years in life, and he's a football man, and he wouldn't take on a job he doesn't need to at this stage in his life or career if he doesn't want to. Martin O'Neill's a very driven man. There's no doubt about that.
On to the FA Cup. How's your team looking in terms of injuries?
Well, Harry Wilson's back in contention, which is good news. So whether he's ready to start or not, it's for us to decide. But that's good for us, and otherwise we're pretty much the same. So it's a good game for us. It comes at a time where we haven't had many performances this year where we've over 90 minutes we're not happy. There have been elements of games, and we've played all the top teams now, pretty much all of them home and away. So it's a good reaction game for us to show that what you saw on Friday night is not what we've been seeing all season, and that's up to the players to show that.
And how much confidence do you think they can take from the performance they put in against Southampton at Pride Park?
Yeah, they can. They can certainly, take confidence from the second half, because we turned the game around. We showed character. We showed quality. We've shown it against Premier League opposition this year in the Carabao Cup, and we've shown it a lot, as I say. So we need to bottle that and use it more consistently, because that's been our problem a bit this season, is sometimes consistency with the transition of the team and the youth and the change of style slightly. So the second half of the season is all about us trying to have that week in, week out, and what better way to show it than against Premier League opposition.
And how important could this game be in terms of putting that result against Leeds behind you and moving on? It's important.
It's important for us. It's an FA Cup. We love the FA Cup here. The fans do. And it's another opportunity for the players to show that they have ability here to match Premier League teams. And after a defeat against Leeds, that's what we need.
You're expecting a quiet window, but can we expect to see any incomings, outgoings?
I don't think you can expect too much, no. We're not in a position where we can do that much. The balance of the squad is slightly off, some of it due to injury and some issues that we've had which we can't control. So it'll be difficult for us to do too much business. So we need to keep working here at the training ground and try and keep performing.
Even if you're potentially looking at perhaps a loan, how important could that be? I mean, we saw what Mitrovic did for Fulham last season. Could this window be crucial in that respect?
Yeah, of course it could be, if it's the right loan and if we can do it. If we can't, then we all have to stand up here, because we have talent in this squad too. Of course, in areas where there's a concern of what injury could do to us, because we are, as I say, people think we have a big squad here. It's big in areas, it's not big in other areas of the pitch. So we have to be concerned about that, and if we can do business, of course, we'd want to do it in those areas.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Talks about, just pick on 2 or 3 things. Talks about youth and consistency there. Is the youth perhaps a benefit going into a game like this because there's a fearlessness that goes with that? Does that help?
Well, I think we showed elements of that at Manchester United, particularly at Old Trafford. Our performance was a lot of young players, their first outing at that sort of venue of the magnitude that it was. And they showed that. So yeah, I think so. Hopefully, you need both. You need the fearlessness of youth, and you need the experience around them to keep them in check on the pitch. So hopefully, we can bring that again.
And did Friday? Did you already know there was a bit of a gap there to Leeds, or did Friday show that to you?
Well, there's a gap in points, so that shows something that they've amassed more points than us, and. I think in terms of a gap, I think if you look at Leeds, and albeit a new manager this year, who's obviously a fantastic manager, but they're a settled team of players that have been there for over the last year or two, trying for promotion. They also added in Douglas and Bamford and these players, so there was a very settled nature to them. We are different to that. We had a lot of changes in the summer, and so it's I think probably expected that there is a slight gap in terms, but. I still have to say that when we are at it, and we weren't at it as we can be on Friday night, then we can certainly compete with anybody in this league. But the rules are the same, whether it's Leeds or whether it's any team in the Championship. If you perform below par, you can lose games. Simple as that.
You were visibly quite down on Friday night after the match, as you'd expect to be. But what sort of person are you in terms of how you deal with that? Do you sort of take things like that and put them in a box? Do you play it over and over a weekend?
You just deal with it. I've been in football for 21 years as a player, so I've been down many times before. Football does that to you. You can't have it all your own way, so you have to be a man about it. You have to be man up, toughen up, whatever you want to call it, as a manager, and on to the next one, because people will look to me here to see how I am, and you say I was down, I wouldn't say I was down, I was a bit more angry. But that's football, that's what it does to you. You still have to keep your head. And then you have to work to the next game because they come thick and fast, and you have to put a smile on your face, you have to be positive, you have to pick up on things that you might have thought were not so right in the game and try and help the players to improve, and that's what we're doing here. One game is certainly not going to define our season, losing against Leeds, because lots of teams will lose against Leeds. What will define us is how we react in the next 5, 6, 7 games.
Just lastly for me, and you mentioned the anger there, just to go back, you said earlier on when you were talking that it was an admission, not an apology. Would you like an apology? No,
because I think he said everything you got to say. And when I said angry, I wasn't angry with that. I was angry with the fact that I knew we can go to Leeds and play better. I was talking about football. In terms of that, I don't want anything more. This will be the last I speak about it, because I certainly don't want to be the person that keeps going on about an issue when it's gone. It's for the authorities to deal with. Now we have to worry about what we're doing.
Thank you.
Frank, you probably won't face a tougher run of games in the Championship as you have done over Christmas. Having come through that with the points that you have, what can that do for the rest of the season now?
Well, it depends on us, because we're in a decent position. We want more, but we have to accept where we're at, which is 6th. I think is a good position, and with the games coming up, it's fantastic now for us to focus on what's important, because we have had a tough game. We've played the top 3 teams away from home in those 6 games. We've also played Middlesbrough at home. We've had a tough run, and that's what it is. We could have amassed a few more points, to be fair, but no, the onus is on us now to be positive, to show the Derby County that we've seen a lot this season, and try and put together a run of performances and then results.
Starting with Southampton, what did you learn from the original tie that maybe you didn't know beforehand? New manager, new team.
Well, I'd watched them beforehand, so I learned that they are a team invigorated and playing with more aggression, certainly in the way they work without the ball, and they have quality because they're a Premier League team. They won at the weekend at a very tough place to go in Leicester. So there aren't that many surprises in that sense. We know we have a very tough game coming, and that we have to approach it in the right way.
To have Harry Wilson back in contention is terrific news. It was one of those that perhaps could have been more serious than when he first came off the pitch.
Yeah, it's hopefully an injury that, as you say, we first worried it's a small muscle injury. We still have to be careful with him, so that's when we'll see how many minutes or whether he starts or not on Wednesday, because he's big for us. We have a big portion of league games coming up as well, and we know how important Harry can be.
On the transfer window, do you have a list of targets that you're still hopeful that you might be able to do, or have you put that all to one side because you're realistic in your ambition or realistic in your thoughts that you might not be able to do that business?
I'm realistic. It doesn't mean that the list is gone, but you have to be realistic. So focus is more on the games and seeing what develops.
And do you think there's a circumstance that might change that? You mentioned the unbalanced nature of your squad, the injury. If another one turned up, would that change the thinking at all or not?
I know there's too many ifs and buts in that question to definitely answer. This is football, so of course things can change, and I don't know, and that's just being honest.
And just finally, from the other side, going out, are you still expecting some more players to leave or not?
It's the same answer. I don't know. I honestly don't know. So we'll take each situation as it comes. Listen, we know the situation we're in. I'm certainly not going to moan about it. We have to work hard. If players who are not getting so many opportunities here get the opportunity to leave, and it's best for everybody involved, then obviously that can happen, and then that might change something. I think that's kind of what you're getting at, isn't it? And if it does, we'll look at it then.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers.
Right, just on the club side, you utilised your squad for the first game and made 6 changes, including 6 players. Do you expect to do the same again? Is that how you feel?
There may be some changes. I mean, it's a busy week for us. Friday, Wednesday, Saturdays. We may need to use some of the squad. There are players that are pushing, and so there may be some changes on that front.
You spoke about transfer window and you know what you'd like to do. We're not sure how much you can do and whether there'll be ins and outs or not. I mean, Derby with their young players that they're developing at the moment, I'm quite proud of that. But Jaden Bogle's in, speculation surrounding him. It was Bournemouth, I think, last week or the week before, and Burnley now. Are you aware of any interest in him?
No, I'm not, but I wouldn't be surprised because from the minute I've been here, Jaden Bogle's been fantastic. I heard he was a talent. He's shown that he can perform at a top level in the Championship and in our cup run at Manchester United and Chelsea. So of course, people will look at players that are performing that well.
When we talk about the squad and that, and I take what you mean when you say you can only pick 18 players, quite rightly so, but there are players that say still on the outside of that squad, and Ikechianya at the moment, I say, is he fit at the moment? Is he available for selection for the 23s or the first team, or is he training? Or?
As far as I know, yes, he's fit. He's had injury problems over the last few weeks. He had a small calf strain. But he's fit and training and available. So, he obviously is a player that when we're talking about there may be ins and outs, he hasn't featured a lot. And if he wants to go and play and a team wants to take him, I think that could be the best solution. But the first person that falls on is Kechi himself to make that decision.
You obviously spoke a bit about Thursday, Frank, but going forward, will you reflect and do anything different in terms of your security, training on a different pitch, or you said you couldn't patrol the perimeter, but perhaps other people can? I mean, will you do anything on that?
Yeah, we won't train on the different pitches because we have 3 pitches that are all similarly placed, so there's no change that. We have security here. Maybe we didn't expect it to be compromised as it was, but no, I don't think I'll change anything. I think we'll carry on to train. We'll carry on training and working, and hope maybe that it doesn't happen again. I suppose. I mean, we're not in a position here to build the big tall wall and we do have public land around us, which a lot of clubs have. So let's see maybe how this is dealt with, because it might change. It might change slightly in terms of the rules. I know the FA and the league have certain rules on how clubs treat each other. I feel it falls under that banner. So let's see.
Is that the rules about sort of bringing the game into disrepute, that sort of stuff?
I can't quote them exactly, so I wouldn't want to say, but it's.
Is that looking in that sort of direction?
I don't know. I think they're slightly broader than that, but it obviously doesn't fall under a particular rule, otherwise we'd know what we're doing.
Frank, do you think it might change the unwritten rules, perhaps just to make people think a bit more about morals of the game?
I don't know. I think it's too deep. I can't tell you what anyone else is going to think on a subject like that. There are loads of things with football that we talk about regularly, that like diving and what people trying to gain advantages, and we'll always talk about them. So I'm not sure what will change, and yeah.
in terms of the Southampton match, so we cut you out there, didn't you obviously wanted to bottle, I think you said, what you did at Old Trafford and stuff. What particular aspects would you like to repeat if possible?
Energy, aggression, quality. We showed the complete package on that night as far as we're concerned. So, listen, it's not, football isn't a science. Players aren't robots. Every game throws up different issues or problems to find a solution to, and it can't be perfect. But you know, you have to have a template. You have to strive for something. And I think Manchester United and certain other performances this year, where we've been really on good form, it's normal that you want to strive and actually try and even improve on that.
That was the sort of template, was it? That you looked the benchmark as far as you're concerned?
Well, no, we've had a lot. We've had a lot of templates. We've had a lot. We've had Manchester United. I thought Chelsea, we were fantastic for big periods of the game in a tough match in the league. We've had West Brom. We've had Middlesbrough away. You know, I don't need to keep going on. I think you can get the gist. We've had lots of other games or portions of games where we've been really good. And as I say, most teams will tell you the same. They're striving for that excellence, and we must always try and do that.
Anything in Nugent to Portsmouth whispers and Marco Card on that at all?
No.
Is the possibility of a cup run, Frank? I mean, is that something that can go side by side with a playoff bid as well? Can the two complement each other?
Yeah, they can. They can, and that's my intention. My intention is to go into Wednesday and try and win the game to prolong the cup run, and then to think about Reading and the games we've got coming up in the league. So I think it's. The good feel of a cup run can help with form, with happiness in the club, with the fans, everybody working together in direction. So yeah, we'll try and do that.
Could this game come at just the right time after Leeds as well? A chance to put things maybe right that you weren't happy with on?
Well, I hope so. Listen, we will be arriving back at 3 a.m. afterwards because it's a long drive. So that's not fantastic for Reading, but at the same time, you know, what an opportunity for us to go there and try and play against a Premier League team. So, yeah, I think it's a good time. Good time for us. It's a great game for us to play.
Yeah.
Done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much.
All the best.